Well, good day, everybody. So we're back to a nighttime routine by default. So if you were waiting to see me at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I think it was, for France, I was a no-show, and 4 o'clock in the UK, no-show. 1 o'clock in the afternoon in the US, no-show. We got a few things going on, and I had fully intended to try to be there, and the meeting was supposed to finish just in time for me to do that. But that meeting continued on. It was very successful. And we decided to make the most of some opportunities available, and so I didn't get to do the earlier session. So you can take it as a given that if we miss the early session, I'll be on at the late session, which is 9 o'clock at night for France and 8 o'clock in the evening for the UK, and probably about 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the USA. So we're here, and beautiful day in Les Sables d'Olonne. The trade winds aren't heavy at all. Blue sky day again, another one of those. And not Les Sables d'Olonne, cheapest. In Punta del Este in Uruguay, it's really cool. Actually, I heard on the grapevine that there is actually a heat wave going on in Europe. And Les Sables d'Olonne was quite warm at about 14 degrees or something, and Spain was 30 degrees, and all this sort of stuff. It should be middle of winter and cold and all that stuff at home, but there you go. It's not to be. So a few little interesting ones. We had another false alarm from Maiden overnight. Last night we got the call from Heather, the skipper, to say that their Dan buoy had been washed overboard with an AIS beacon on it and all the rest of it, because they're trucking along really fast. All the fleet is and was, which we'll show you. We mentioned last night that they were probably getting 30 knots, gusting 40 knots, 5 to 6 meter seas and so on. And so Maiden would have been hooting along. Wave came through and took out their man overboard gear. And they had actually also put a what we call a PAB. It's Papa Alpha Bravo, not a PLB, Papa Lima Bravo. PLB is a 406 distress beacon, and a PAB is a personal AIS beacon, which all the entrants have to have. It's put on their life jackets and activates automatically. When the life jacket inflates, the AIS beacon goes off, and we use that as a primary aid to locate the person in the water. So Mermaid crew had actually put a PAB, strapped it to their Dan buoy. Now, a Dan buoy is a floating flag mast, a pole with a leaded weight, so when it hits the water, you've got a flag flying, and it's connected to a life buoy often. And the person in the water, if they're separated from the boat, they can make for that Dan buoy, and it's just another visual aid to spot them in the water, because you look for the flag and the flagpole. Anyway, they lost a lot and they had a PAB. The PAB normally isn't water activated. The idea is the person launching the Dan buoy, just before they chuck it, they turn the PAB on manually. And it usually lasts, it's certified, usually most of them, depending on the brand, lasts for about 8 hours continuous, a minimum of 8 hours, but often, depending on the temperature of the water, you could last 18 hours or more or longer. Anyway, just to save any issues, we notified the rescue coordination centres that some equipment had been lost at one point. We weren't sure whether it was a PLB on there or whether it was a PAB, but it was clarified to be a PAB, and it hasn't been seen on marine traffic, so the AIS beacon hasn't gone off, but the Dan buoy is out there, and we had 3 other boats that were converging on that spot just naturally, so we alerted the fleet as well that there is a Dan buoy floating around with a PAB on board, connected to it, so it could activate, but probably not. So anyway, all was well. The system worked. Heather was able to get to us really quickly, and they've been flying. So the rest of it has all been talk about Point Nemo. Point Nemo is a place on the Earth which is the furthest from any other human contact, and they're pretty much in that spot right now. So there's not much around except for flying space junk, because it is a spot where anyone who owns a satellite up there and they want to bring it back to Earth and let it crash out, Point Nemo is one of the safest places to do that. And they'll usually give an alert and say, watch out, anyone in the area, there's space junk coming down. But I haven't actually done a search, and I don't think there's anything due on the way in. So no need to wear their hard hats at the moment, but an interesting point on the face of the Earth. So enough of that. Let's get straight into the tracker. and it's pretty much happening as we suggested it would yesterday. And it's quite fascinating. I just got to log on here. Oh, I'm not using my mouse. I actually have a mouse now. So I'm actually working with a Wi-Fi mouse because a few people said apparently you could hear my clicking on this new computer. It was going off like clunk, clunk, clunk. So we've got rid of that. So this mouse is now running around with a Wi-Fi mouse instead of my touchscreen or touchpad on the computer. So hopefully it's a bit quieter. And look at this, all very dramatic. Now, we mentioned that the leaders are going to drive out into nothing, which they've done in the last 8 hours. And the mid-fleet here now has a chance to catch up. They're roaring along in very solid Southern Ocean conditions, 5 to 6 metre seas, gusting 40 knots. Temperature will have dropped down because the wind's coming up from the southwest. And Explorer and Sterner are also closing the coast a little bit. So not the coast, closing the fleet a little bit. So this is a chance for them to continue with that. We'll see what happens when we look at the weather going forward for the next couple of days. In the meantime, Explorer is still moving. They've been running at about 6 knots for a while. They've managed 110 nautical mile day. So at least they're moving because there's not a lot of breeze there. Pleasant sailing, that's for sure. They're enjoying that. And Sterner, she's picked up. Okay, she was doing the same as Explorer, but now she's got more breeze. You can see this little bit of a band there going up there, so that's good news for them. And they've managed 108 mile day, so a little bit less than Explorer overall. And their distance now, we'll just see how we go here. Distance, transom to transom along the way. That looks pretty reasonable. We've got 240 miles, so Sterner's got away a little bit. They were at one stage about 185 miles, so Sterner's pulled away, but we'll see how that goes over the next number of days. Okay, so now we'll just pick up the fleet here. They're both looking to go around the waypoint, but both Explorer and Sterner have got it in their sights, and there's no real drama for them at this stage. So that's kind of cool. And now what's happening with the main fleet? I might be able to just get them all on. Yes, I can. Okay, back end here, sailing really well. Outlaw doing 9.4 knots in this solid breeze on the starboard quarter. This is perfect for these style of boats. And they've done 206 mile day. The Esprit de Keep, happy. They've done 225 mile day. They've had a bad run of it lately, and they would be really a bit miffed that they're at the back end of the fleet, but that's sailing, not as if they've been sailing slow. It's just that, for whatever reason, the weather hasn't been kind to them. So 9.8 knots, flying now with a vengeance, 225 mile day. That may be one of the biggest. And Evrika, 189 mile day, 8 knots. That's pretty respectable, but you can see the pressure that the Esprit de Keep are putting on. They just figure we shouldn't be here, guys and girls. Let's get out of here. So White Shadow, wow, that's doing 9.2 as well, 207 mile day. All of the fleet is settled in. They know what they're doing now. They've spent quite a bit of time in the Southern Ocean, and this, whilst it's not easy sailing, it's not a storm per se. This is Southern Ocean, and they know their boats, and they're just going for it now. This is solid performance. So White Shadow holding their own there. Galliana with secure, 9.2, 199 mile day. So still, White Shadow just gained a little bit. Much more, a Swan 57 compared to a Swan 55. A huge difference. The volume of the 55 is probably only 2/3 that of White Shadow. So White Shadow deserves to be a lot faster than Galliana. Excuse me. I'm not sure. We can have a look at their ratings again as well. But yeah, Galliana still sailing well above their pay grade right now, and on the hammer of Triana. Triana 9.7, 208 mile day. So yeah, by comparison, Galliana's doing really well, even though Triana is a 53 footer. So the Swan 53 is again smaller boat than White Shadow, but it's a lot more modern boat. The Swan 53 was designed later in the day. It's a Frere's design. The Swan 57 was the last of the Sparksman and Stevens design boats. Designed in was it 70? 70. It must have been 76, 77. I forget exactly the time of design. No, it must have been before then because the first ones went in 77. Okay, so Triana's doing really well. Neptune up top there, racing their own race, 9.8 knots, 204 mile day. Spirit of Helsinki dipping south a bit, 227. Okay, 2 miles further than who was it back there with 255? Was it Outlaw? Hang on. This is like playing Snap. The Spirit of Kit 225, and Spirit of Helsinki is 227. So let's see who's got the biggest day, but it could be Spirit of Helsinki 9.4. Maiden hooting along 10.4, 221 mile day. Excuse me. And then the boys, jeepers, that's all right. Now, how are they doing that? That's interesting, because I thought they were right on the edge of this. And you can see there's something going wrong with this graphic here now, because Translated 9's doing 7.8, right? And they've done 210 mile day, but it's suggesting it's actually calm. I noticed that in the previous 4 hours, but this is the new position for excuse me, 4 hours later, and I would have thought they would have slowed right down. Penduic, they've picked up a bit as well. Okay, because they were going quite a bit slower in the previous 4 hours. I forget what it was, but I think they were down to 5 knots or something. So there's something not quite right with this graphic. We're not getting that sort of breeze. If it was, Translated would not be doing 7.8 knots and wouldn't have managed the 211 mile day. So there's no compression in the fleet yet, because of this calm. Let's just see what's happening here between Maiden and Translated. 93 mile day, a 93 mile gap there. So we're still all pretty close, but I was expecting to see the leaders here slow down now and let the mid fleet catch up a bit, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So the Spirit of Helsinki in real terms only 150 miles away from Translated, and the gap between Translated and Penduic's only 20 miles, only 20 miles behind. So all interesting stuff. So it's still anyone's game right now. I've got to get rid of this sucker. There we go. Okay, so I'll come back and look at the graphic for the weather in the next couple of days. Let's see what's going on here. I've got to just angle this back a bit so I can see. I'm going to put the Latin long on so I can see what's going on. Just as a measure, let's just see. Penduic is currently 1,500 miles, 1,500 miles from Cape Horn, and normally you'd consider that to be a good solid week. Okay, 7 days, 200 miles a day, it's 8 days. So that's if you're getting good solid 200 mile days. They shouldn't get that. So it's probably going to be 10 days before they're at the Horn. But that tells you, excuse me, roughly where they are. I'll get rid of that again so we can get rid of this, and we'll push this weather through. There's nothing back here at all. Like there's no storms, no low pressure systems, nothing. It's really quite amazing. I keep coming back to this whole weather scenario being very benign, very stable. Can I call it untraditional? I'm not sure, but it's certainly kind. That's probably all I can say at the moment. Okay, so now now I need to come on here. You're going to hear this click because I've got to use the right clicks here. So we're coming through. You see, I'll just go for the movement. I'll do a close-up of the weather later. Okay, so that calm center is gone very quickly, and it's back into the sou'westers again. So not good for Sterner and Explorer. This little patch here of southwesterlies is going to envelop and come back over the fleet. That might explain why Translated and Penduic are still sailing, because it's already probably happening. Sometimes the graphic doesn't give the right edge, and I'd say that's all over. So you're not going to see that compression of the fleet now. I think that's going to come over, and then there's a little bit there. They may, by the time that comes out, we're on to the 31st already in 2 days. So in 2 days, they could be over here. So they may slow down a bit, but there's plenty of breeze back there as well. I'm just going to, let's just go for the long range forecast now while we're here. I just want to see this big patch of stuff coming up that's going to hit Sterner and Explorer by the 2nd of February. They might be the other side of it, but just going forward. So we're on to the 2nd of February, 3rd of February. Imagine this, the 3rd, so there's 4 days ahead. It's all just good sailing up here. 4 days, they're going to be up here somewhere. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. It's all just good sailing. Look at that. Before we went through the 5th, and there was no big storm, just generalisation. And here they're going to get it a bit calm. This is interesting. They can come down from the top here. They usually squash up against the coast. Yeah, a bit of that. And then it starts to disappear. And then there's nothing again. So that's not going to hold them up. Because their run line, all of this stuff that's happening here, they've got to go around this waypoint, and then they'll be basically trending down. So unless it's in this area down here, and it seems to be disappearing again, that's really nothing at all. Again, it just depends where this forecast holds. So that's the 7th. And by then, they're really at Cape Horn. And look at this. It's just, there's no surprises. This is really quite amazing, touch wood. So, okay, so you've seen the long-range forecast, and we come back to today. I'll push it up a bit more. You can watch your favourite boats, and this will give you an idea. Now, in terms of distance, if you're doing 200-mile days, just to give you a 200-mile perspective, this is the lines of longitude. That's 380. So this is going to be like 2 days sailing. So you can say between 100 and 110 west and 120 west is about 2 days, right? So as I walk this through, that's today at 19:30 hours. We're pushing it through to 19:30. You see Sterner's going to have more blues than Explorer. So Explorer's falling back. On the 31, we're coming up to exactly 2 days. So, okay. So they are still going to have some light stuff. Yeah, there we are. So that's 2 days. So if they're there, by then they're here. And the back end of the fleet's going to be somewhere in here as well. So there is going to be some slowdown. An Explorer should be up around here somewhere in 2 days. Sterner up around here. Get around the mark in a couple of days. Yeah, they might gain a little bit. So let's just see this big lump of wind coming up. And it looks like it might be over 35 knot forecast there. But, okay, it's going to go behind them. This is on the 2nd of February. By the 2nd of February, both Explorer and Sterner will be the other side of that patch, so they'll probably miss it as well. Wow. That's about all I can show you for the weather. Let's look at the leaderboard. And line honours, is, as you see it, Penduic translated. Not a lot in it. They're right on top of each other, and the others, so it goes. You know, you can see they're pretty lined up, 100 miles between them and things like that. But IRC is the interesting one, because that's showing an elapsed situation from the very beginning. And once again, translated first on 34 days and 6 hours. Triana is 14 hours behind that. Galliana with Secure is a day behind Triana. And then Maiden is 20 hours behind Galliana. So the 20 hours behind is Maiden. Then Neptune is near enough to 12 hours behind. Penduic is another hour behind that. So Penduic's running 6. White Shadow behind Penduic, and so it goes. Spirit of Helsinki way down at 8th. Recall the Speed of Kip right down the back as well. So, all very interesting. That's about it. So, sorry to not get you to the earlier session, but as I say, we had a very fruitful day, lots of good meetings, lots of amazing things being set up for the entrants when they arrive. Incredibly hospitable club, and some really excited people. They're because the 100th anniversary of the Yacht Club Punta del Este, and that's set for the 14th of February. And our estimate at this stage is the first boat from the OGR will arrive on the 14th of February. So there's a few bells and whistles going off at the moment. They're really excited about that, to be celebrating their club. It's a very prestigious club, one of the most important clubs in all of Punta del Este. And all of a sudden, their major event, the major celebration of the club on the 14th of February may have a round-the-world boat turning up. So there's a big buzz going on here right now. Anyway, all good. I'll carry on with my, if I can find the edges here and drag it back. This is the contrast here on the screen. Seeing it. 3 p.m. in Florida. Oh, that's good to hear, John. Okay, so sorry I missed the earlier one. So as I say, we'll still target the earlier time, but if I miss it, I'm going to miss it completely and come back up at this timeline, because it's 4 hours later and we get the latest position report to match it. So, g'day, Andrew. Yeah, Jane's better. Jane's looking pretty good, actually, but I've got this stupid cough now. So sorry about all the coughing and spluttering, but Jane's passed me. She's looking a lot better now. Thanks, Nigel. Everyone from London. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, yeah. I know London prefers late at night because it's all over with work, but we'll see how we go. 1200. Yep. Okay. Rob. Morning. 6:30 in Adelaide. Nice update a bit later. Yep. You can never win, eh? Oh, good. I've got a mouse going, so we'll see how it goes. Back in the evening updates, yeah, for a while, but we'll go back to the other. So if I don't do the morning one, you'll get, or the early one, you'll get this one. So no questions. It's nice to catch up. Hey, John. Yeah, go Maiden. Maiden's doing all right. No, thanks, Ron. Thanks, John. I'm all good. Stronger than Don. Huh. Depends what you call stronger, Jing. Anyway, Clara. We will catch up shortly, Clara. Oops. I just pressed the wrong button here. Okay. Yeah, recovering good. G'day, John. Did you check Windy for the lead location weather? Yeah, I did. It's, I didn't check it today, but I check it regularly to make sure we're not going over 35 forecast. And I haven't seen where the edge of that wind zone versus no wind zone, but I will have a look in a minute. Okay. Oh, cheap as the bloody mouse is making everything go upside down. I got this task. No, sidebar. I've got it again. I picked it up. Can't hardly see it. That's it. G'day, Mike and Gay. Hope all well. All right. So that's it for now. So we'll see you again tomorrow. Time's flying. Eh? It'll be February before we know it. And then next minute it'll be March. And then it'll be April. And wow. Okay. See you later.